Hello, Malma Angeles. We're moving to the next stage of the pandemic as the world resets to the new normal. We find ourselves seeking the right balance between health and livelihood, constantly adjusting the boundaries between liberty and responsibility. Here are tonight's news. First, amid the fight against the coronavirus disease pandemic, Malacanang released fresh guidelines for the implementation of quarantine protocols nationwide. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque said minimum standards should be observed in places where enhanced community quarantine or ECQ, modified ECQ and general community quarantine or GCQ would be implemented beginning May 16. Let's listen in.
Yung ating transition po from ECQ to GCQ. Pag tayo po ay nasa ECQ, lahat tayo stay at home. Ngayong meron na tayong modified ECQ, stay at home pa rin po tayo 100%. At kapag meron na pong GCQ, stay at home pa rin yung mga vulnerable, yung ating mga seniors, at yung mga transmitters, yung ating mga kabataan. Paano naman po ang exercise? Ito po, mabuting balita, marami nagtatanong. Sa ECQ, hindi po allowed ang eksersisyo sa labas ng ating mga pamamahay. Pero sa modified ECQ, po pwede pong limited outdoor exercise allowed. Kasama po ng outdoor walk, yung paglalakad, jogging, pagtakbo, bisikleta, pero kinakailangan meron pong safety protocols gaya ng pagsusuot ng masks at 2-meter distancing. Gusto ko ng 2 million pesos, kaya... At siyempre po, pag GCQ na, po pwede po yung limited contact sports, gaya ng golf at tennis. Maraming matutuwa po dyan, pero sa GCQ po yun, ha? Uulitin ko, hindi pa po sa modified ECQ. Paano naman yung mga pagpupulong? Well, sa ECQ po, hindi pa rin po yan allowed. Sa modified ECQ, highly restricted. Ang pinakamarami pong pwedeng magpulong, 5 lamang. Pero sa GCQ, restricted pa rin po ang mga numero na pwede magpulong hanggang 10 lamang. Ano naman po yung pag-travel? Sa ECQ, wala pa po tayong pampublikong transportasyon. Wala tayong flights, walang domestic, at meron tayong limited international flights. Sa modified ECQ, wala pa rin pong pampublikong transportation. Wala pa rin po tayong domestic flights at limited pa rin ang ating international flights. Kontrolado pa rin po ang mga papasok na travel. Ito po ay limitado sa ating mga OFWs at mga returning Filipinos. Bagamat po pwede pong mag-biking and non-motorized transport na ini-encourage natin. Wala pa pong inter-island travel. Sa GCQ, magkakaroon na po ng public transport pero meron pong strict safe distancing at magkakaroon na po ng inter-island travel from GCQ to GCQ provided there will be safety protocols. Mga eskwelahan, sa ECQ po, sarado. Sa modified ECQ, sarado pa rin. Sa GCQ, skeletal workforce po to process yung mga requirements para sa mga estudyante at saka para po magprepara sa graduation at magprepara sa susunod na semestre. Ang mga tao pong nagtatrabaho sa gobyerno, ito po, maraming tanong din. Sa ECQ, skeletal on-site, and others po, work from home. Meron na pong guidelines na in-issue ang ating Civil Service Commission dyan. Sa modified ECQ, pareho pa rin po. Skeletal workforce pa rin ang mga taong gobyerno at kinakailangan work from home pa rin sang-ayon po sa Civil Service Circular. Sa GCQ, well, magkakaroon po tayo ng alternative work arrangements. Kinakailangan nga siguro masunod yung 40 hours of work pero may mga possibility na magkakaroon po tayo ng 4-day work week. Ano ho ba yung mga different phases as we move from ECQ to modified ECQ at GCQ? Well, sa populasyon po, sa ECQ, lahat ng tao nasa bahay. Sa modified ECQ, lahat ng tao pa rin po ay nasa bahay. Sa GCQ, yung mga vulnerable, yung mga seniors, at ang mga transmitters, ang kabataan, sa bahay pa rin po. Tapos, sa public transportation, well, ito po, sa ECQ, Wala pong public transportation, maliban lamang sa mga shuttles para sa frontliners. Sa modified ECQ, wala pa rin pong public transportation, pero pwede po na mag-deploy ng mga shuttle buses, yung mga industriya na inaalaw na magtrabaho, at saka subject din po sa exceptions na ibibigay ng DILG tungkol dito. Ang mga public shuttle po dapat ibigay ng mga kumpanya. Kung pagmamaari po ng kumpanya, wala na kinakailangan na permit sa LTFRB, pero kung sila po uupa ng shuttle, kinakailangan kumuha ng permit sa LTFRB. Sa GCQ po pwede na yung mga tren, pwede na mga bus, mga jeepney, taxi, TNVS, tricycle, at public shuttle. Pero limited po ito. Ang capacity, kinakailangan 50%, at ang jeepney po, aalaw lang po yan kung walang mga bus dahil harapan nga po ang jeepney. Pero kinakailangan din po merong pagsuot ng mga masks at kinakailangan pa rin yung strict minimum health standards. Sa transportasyon pa rin, sa ECQ, company shuttle nga po, sinabi ko na yan. Sa modified ECQ, pareho po. At sa GCQ, pwede naman talaga yung mga private shuttle. Yung mga pribado mga sasakyan, pwede po yan sa ECQ. Pero para po yan makapasok yung mga nagtatrabaho sa mga industriyang pinapayagang mag-operate. At ganyan din po ang rule sa modified ECQ. Bagamat papayagan na po siya sa GCQ. Ang mga bisikleta, hindi pa rin po pwede sa ECQ, pwede na sa modified ECQ at sa GCQ. Mga motorsiklo, hindi po pwede sa ECQ, pwede na po sa MECQ, pero dapat isa lang ang pasahero, at pwede rin po sa GCQ. Ang e-scooter, hindi po pwede sa ECQ, isang tao po pwede sa MECQ, at pwede na po sa GCQ.
A northeastern Chinese city has partially shut its borders, cut off transport links, and closed schools after the emergence of a local coronavirus cluster that has fueled fears about a second wave of infections in China. Jilin, with a population of more than 4 million, suspended bus services Wednesday and said it will only allow residents to leave the city if they have tested negative for COVID-19 in the past 48 hours and completed an unspecified period of strict self-isolation. All cinemas, indoor gyms, internet cafes, and other enclosed entertainment venues must shut immediately, and pharmacies must report all sales of fever and antiviral medicines, according to the local government in a statement. The city is located in the eponymous province of Jilin, which borders Russia and North Korea. A cluster of infections was reported in the suburb of Shulan over the weekend, with Jilin's vice mayor warning Wednesday that the situation was extremely severe and complicated and that there is major risk of further spread. The city recorded 6 new cases on Wednesday, all linked to the Shulan cluster, bringing the total number of cases connected to a local laundry worker to 21. Shulan shut down public transport, including trains leaving the city on Sunday. Jilin City, the second largest in Jilin province, also suspended train services from its main railway station Wednesday morning. U.S. Republican senators proposed legislation that would empower President Trump to slap sanctions on China if Beijing doesn't give a full accounting for the coronavirus outbreak. China refuses to allow the international community to go into the Wuhan lab to investigate, according to Senator Lindsey Graham, another sponsor of the bill. They refuse to allow investigators to study how this outbreak started, and I'm convinced China will never cooperate with a serious investigation unless they are made to do so. The Chinese Communist Party must be held accountable for the detrimental role they played in this pandemic, said Senator Jim Inhofe, one of the sponsors of the COVID-19 Accountability Act. The legislation will give President Trump 60 days to certify to Congress that China has provided a full accounting of the COVID-19 outbreak to an investigation that could be led by the U.S. and its allies or a United Nations body like the World Health Organization. President Trump must also certify that China has closed its highest risk wet markets and released Hong Kong activists arrested in post-COVID-19 crackdowns. Without certification, President Trump would be authorized under the legislation to impose sanctions like asset freezes, travel bans, and visa revocations, as well as restricting Chinese business access to U.S. bank financing and capital markets. Meanwhile, 2 people in Hong Kong tested positive for the coronavirus, according to officials on Wednesday, ending a 24-day run of no new local cases that saw the city begin to ease social distancing regulations. The financial hub was on course for 28 days of no local transmissions, a yardstick often used by epidemiologists to judge if an outbreak has been defeated. But on Wednesday, officials said a 66-year-old woman and her 5-year-old granddaughter had tested positive for the virus. Investigators described them as local transmission cases, saying they were still trying to work out how the older woman had become infected. She has no travel history, her family has no travel history, and they have no contact history with confirmed cases, according to Dr. Chow Shuk-Wan, adding officials were planning to test the neighbors. For the last 3 weeks, the only new cases have been in 24 people arriving from overseas who were placed in quarantine. The new infections will raise fears that a new outbreak could still occur. Despite its close proximity and links to mainland China, Hong Kong has kept infections to around 1,000 people, with 4 deaths using intensive testing and contact tracing. The city has avoided the kind of harsh lockdown seen elsewhere. Meanwhile, Wuhan plans to conduct coronavirus tests on the Chinese city's entire population after new cases emerged for the first time in weeks in the cradle of the global pandemic, according to state media. Officials had been ordered to submit by noon on Tuesday plans to administer nucleic acid tests on all residents in the city of 11 million people, according to an official notice carried by news outlets. Each district should make plans and arrangements to conduct nucleic acid tests on the entire population in its jurisdiction within a 10-day time limit, according to the notice, although it was unclear when testing would begin. The plan come after Wuhan reported the first cluster of new COVID-19 infections since the city reopened after a 76-day lockdown on April 8. 6 new cases were reported on Sunday and Monday from a residential compound in Dongjiu district. Wu Zhenyu, chief epidemiologist at the Chinese Center for Disease Control and Prevention, told state broadcaster CCTV it wasn't necessary for every person in Wuhan to be tested. Neighborhoods without any cases don't need to screen every day, he said, while large-scale screening should focus on key jobs and other criteria. China has largely brought the virus under control, but it has been on edge about being hit by a second wave as it has lifted lockdowns and restrictions across the country. Virus clusters have appeared recent weeks in the northeastern provinces of Jilin and Heilongjiang, which border Russia. With the virus taking hold in other nations, China has barred most foreigners from entering the country. The U.S. government's top infectious disease expert warned Congress that ending lockdowns too quickly could bring severe consequences, including new outbreaks of the coronavirus, just as the country tries to overcome the pandemic. Take a look.
Get concerned if you have a situation where the dynamics of an outbreak in an area are such that you are not seeing that gradual over 14-day decrease that would allow you to go to phase 1. And then if you pass the checkpoints of phase 1, go to phase 2 and phase 3.
So if a community or a state or a region doesn't go by those guidelines and reopen, the consequences could be pretty dire, correct?
The consequences could be really serious, particularly, and this is something that I think we also should pay attention to, that states, even if they're doing it at an appropriate pace, which many of them are and will, namely a pace that's commensurate with the dynamics of the outbreak, that they have in place already the capability that when there will be cases, There is no doubt, even under the best of circumstances, when you pull back on mitigation, you will see some cases appear. It's the ability and the capability of responding to those cases with good identification, isolation, and contact tracing will determine whether you can continue to go forward as you try to reopen America. So it's not only doing it at the appropriate time with the appropriate constraints, but having in place the capability of responding when the inevitable return of infections occur.
In the United Kingdom, the Chancellor has extended the government's coronavirus wage subsidy scheme for workers until the end of October. Erica Celestino joins us live from the UK. Hello, Erica.
Hello, Alma. And yes, British Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rishi Sunak, announces in Parliament a 4-month extension until the end of October of the state-sponsored job retention scheme to limit job losses linked to the fallout from the coronavirus. Let's listen in.
I can announce today that the job retention scheme will be extended for 4 months until the end of October. By that point, we will have provided 8 months of support to British people and businesses. Until the end of July, there will be no changes whatsoever. Then from August to October, the scheme will continue for all sectors and regions of the UK, but with greater flexibility to support the transition back to work.
So Finance Minister Rishi Sunak said 7.5 million jobs had already been supported by the furlough scheme, which allows employees to receive 80% of their pay up to £2,500 a month. The Treasury said some 935,000 companies have used government help to retain jobs, claiming more than £10 billion. Businesses would also be asked to share the cost of salary support to maintain current levels of assistance. Sunak's statement came after speculation that the scheme, part of an unprecedented package of government intervention to support businesses, would be gradually reduced. But with predictions of a 14% slump in GDP this year and no immediate return for most businesses from lockdown measures, there have been calls for it to be maintained. YouGov poll published on Tuesday indicated 72% of Britons supported the extension. So the Chancellor of the Exchequer is expected to provide more details later this month on how government assistance will be reduced over time. The Institute for Fiscal Studies think tank said the extension in its full form for the whole month of July will cost taxpayers an extra £10 billion, taking the total cost to about £60 billion since it was launched in March. The scheme has not been without controversy, with reports that some of the country's richest business owners taking advantage of the state support to furlough their staff. In the meantime, European countries are beginning to reopen their economies after similar stay-at-home measures, but Britain has effectively extended its restrictions for several weeks. Prime Minister Boris Johnson has urged people to continue to work at home if they can, but said that those who are working in sectors such as manufacturing and construction, they could return if it is safe. So face masks have been recommended in public places and areas, and it has been recommended for people not to take public transport where possible, because Britain has seen more than 32,000 deaths in the outbreak. This is the worst in Europe and second only to the United States, although there are indications that the true toll is higher. And also, the Bank of England has warned that the economic paralysis could lead to the worst recession in centuries. Back to you, Alma.
Okay, so with the extension of the furlough scheme by 4 months, what changes will take place?
Well, there are a few changes, Alma. First of all, from the start of August, workers will be able to go back to their job, but it's going to be on a part-time basis. So right now, companies have to choose between putting staff into complete furlough, which means that they do not work at all, or keep them in full pay. From August, furloughed workers will be able to go back to work part-time, with employers being asked to pay towards the salaries of their furloughed staff. So the government said it is also finding ways for people to get additional, training or learn new skills while they are furloughed, and their employer is receiving money from the government.
So what does this change mean for both the employers and the employee?
Well, for employers, the 80% pay level will stay, but companies will have to start contributing for their staff that return part-time. There are no details yet of what companies will be asked to pay, but they are hoping that it will be affordable because, currently many businesses have had no revenue coming in for months, but still they are paying their fixed overhead costs. Although, from this point of view, that's for the employers, there is a more positive outlook for the workers. It gives them a chance to work again at a part-time basis, but it will give them, the chance to not be permanently unemployed in the coming weeks. We know that it is still 10 weeks away before the part-time scheme begins in August, and for now, some employers might still decide to make the redundancies. And in that case, the employee will have to apply for universal credit, Alma.
All right, thank you very much. Erica, keep the updates coming. Stay safe, stay healthy.
Thank you, Alma. Thank you, Alma. Reporting from the United Kingdom, I am Erica Celestino, and we live in interesting times.
Okay, let's go over to Belgium. Kate Rebibis joins us live. Let's get the latest coronavirus situation there. Hello, Kate.
Hi, Alma.
Good to see you.
For Belgium, Belgium is currently undergoing Phase 1B of easing the lockdown, which started on the 11th of May, whereas Phase 1A started last week on the 4th of May. As of yesterday, there are 54,109 confirmed cases, wherein 13,732 have recovered, but 8,816 deaths. If we would evaluate the daily new cases since the lockdown has been lifted, there has been a decline of new cases, but ascended again on the 6th of May with 639 cases. However, there is a continuous decline since that day with only 330 new cases yesterday. Due to the positive trend seen in Belgium's figures, Phase 2, starting on the 18th of May, is expected to be executed as planned. However, the Belgian Prime Minister, Sophie Wilmès, said that the progress is not guaranteed due to the newly infected, patients, and deaths. If Phase 2 does go through, these are on the following agenda of the government. Hairdressers and beauticians may reopen. Zoos and museums may reopen with limited number of tickets per day. Food trucks and single stalls with permission may reopen, but markets will remain closed. Day trips within the country will be possible as well. As for reopening, bed and breakfast and hotels is up for discussion. The country has also been busy with the Dawn Plasma study, which is a collaboration between university and non-university hospitals in the regions of Wallonia, Flanders, and Brussels. With the promising therapy of plasma transfusion for COVID-19 patients, this study aims to find out whether antibodies of recovered patients at an early stage reduces the need for respiratory assistance in patients infected. Due to the mandatory mask regulations put up by the government, municipalities have been distributing free reusable masks to each household. In some municipalities like Antwerp, they decided not to wait for the masks provided by the federal government, thus buying 600,000 masks for their residents, which is accessible at pharmacies. As planned on phase 2, schools will normally be reopening on the 18th of May. But Flemish schools further reduce pupils returning to class due to the lack of classrooms or staff members to accommodate small groups within a classroom. Despite the agenda of the government regarding educational institutions, school administrations may choose how to restart their classes while abiding the regulations. Since majority of the shops opened this week, they have prepared their stores that abides by the regulations set up by the government. Most of the shops prepare sanitizers and tissues outside the door for customers to use. They have also blocked halls in the stores to keep social distancing between the customers. Only limited number of customers may also go in the stores. However, this then resolves to queuing, which the government highly discouraged. Belgian companies plan to lay off nearly 200,000 employees. There have also been surveys revealing that roughly 7% of all companies are likely to go bankrupt. With summer nearing, they are also preparing for a cultural deconfinement plan, which might take place in the months of May, June, July, and August. Further details will be given in the following days.
All right. Thank you for your report, Kate. Keep the updates coming.
Thank you. Reporting from Leuven, Belgium, I am Kate Rebibis. We live in interesting times.
To Russia now, the country registered more than 10,000 new COVID-19 cases, continuing a grim trend that has seen the country become a global virus hotspot. We have an update coming in. Joining us live from Moscow is Rodora Pereche. Hello, Dang.
Hi, Alma. Good evening there in Manila.
Good evening. How are you?
Fine. We're
All
fine.
right. Thank you. Okay, so what are your updates for us over there in Russia?
Yes, today's latest coronavirus update, a total of 242,271 coronavirus cases have been confirmed in Russia, with 48,003 patients having recovered from the virus. In the last 24 hours, the country has reported 10,899 infections, the 10th consecutive day that the number has been above 10,000. Among the infected is President Vladimir Putin's spokesman, Dmitry Peskov. Local media report, Mr. Peskov told TASS news agency that he last met President Putin in person more than a month ago. Mr. Putin is working remotely from his residence outside the capital, and the Kremlin says his health is well protected. He is the latest high-profile official to test positive after Prime Minister Mikhail Mishustin caught the illness. The news comes the day after President Putin eased the country's lockdown. Factory and construction workers returned to work yesterday, though Mr. Putin gave the regions freedom to set restrictions depending on local circumstances. Despite the high number of confirmed cases, Russia's death toll is only 2,212. The government officials says the country's mass testing program is responsible for the low mortality rate, but many believe the number is in fact far higher. Russia conducted 5.6 million coronavirus tests. The president announced the end of 6 weeks of non-working days in a televised address on Monday. Construction workers and industrial companies went back to work, and the capital began operating under a mask regime. Moscow's residents are now required to wear both masks and gloves in store, public transportations, and at work, or they will face fines up to 5,000 rubles or about $68 US. Though Mr. Putin gave regions freedom to set restrictions depending on the local circumstances, the outbreak is far from over, the president warned, saying the danger remains. But all sectors of the economy should begin to restart, he said, so local authorities could bring in tougher restrictions if needed to contain the spread of the virus. With the countries around the world beginning to loosen their antivirus measures, many people are starting to ask one thing: when can I travel again? If you are planning to come to Russia, you might need to wait until next year, according to a letter written by the president of the Russian Tourist Industry Union, Andrei Ignatiev, and the president of the Russian Hotel Association, Gennady Lamshin, it may take until January 1, 2021 for passage through Russia's border to get back to normal. As each country deals with its own outbreak, Russia would begin to accept the tourists from more and more countries, with travel reaching pre-coronavirus level by January 1, 2021. International tourism will resume by July 1, but only accepting tourists from countries with fewer instances of coronavirus. Back to you, Alma.
All right. Thank you for your report. Dang, keep safe and stay healthy.
Thank you, Alma. Reporting from Moscow, Russia, this is Rodora Piroche. We live in interesting times.
To Switzerland now, the country has entered the second phase of eased measures. Christine Benedicto joins us live. Hello, Christine.
Hi, Alma. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Switzerland
also,
entered.
yes.
Thank you. Switzerland entered into the second phase of its eased measures against COVID-19 this Monday, May 11th. The total number of cases as of this morning is 30,413 and 1,564 fatalities. This Monday was a very important day for a lot of people and businesses in the country. It marked the return to school, for example, of primary and secondary level students. Now, depending on the cantons, arrangements varied from half-day schooling to every other day schooling, and in other cantons, whole-day schooling. In Geneva, for instance, school reopened with classes divided into morning and afternoon groups. The first day was dedicated to the explanation of health measures to be followed by students, like washing of hands as the students enter their classrooms, and also designated entry and exit paths so that big crowds of children and parents are avoided as much as possible. Now, contact between parents and teachers will need to continue online, by email, or by phone to limit adult-to-adult spreading of the virus. And since Geneva borders France, students living in neighboring France were also given passes so that they could enter Switzerland. Traffic jams were also reported, by the way, at the Swiss-French borders in the first days, but the authorities expect this to ultimately go to a better level after a few days. In general, there's indeed quite more dynamic in the streets as public transportation, for example, has gone back to more or less normal scheduling after weeks of reduced services. Museums, libraries, stores and restaurants have also reopened on Monday. Sports with no physical contact and maximum 5 people are now also allowed. Now, but everywhere, there's this new sense of normal that people need to get used to, be it on the side of consumers or business owners. Stores have a maximum number of people they can let enter. At the same time, and restaurants have to ensure 2-meter spacing between tables and a maximum of 4 people as well per table, or families with children. These 2 weeks will serve as the basis for the authorities on how to handle the third phase of the eased measures, planned to be from June 8th. The authorities by then hope to reopen more cultural places, such as zoos and theaters, and maybe allowing gatherings as well of more than 5 people. That's the update from Switzerland.
Okay, so with the new normal measures in place right now, second phase of eased measures, you said with the restaurants, what about church activities, playgrounds? What's the...
So church activities for now are not yet allowed. Gatherings of more than 5 people. Playgrounds are still closed to avoid the touching of the places, of the areas. But since more stores are open, you no longer have to struggle to get things such as ink for your printer, so that has become easier. But what's different really is people need to respect this 2-meter distancing. You have to queue if the maximum number of people has been reached in stores, and so those are the things that are different. But we're not in the real normal phase of our life.
Yes. So on a personal note, tell me a bit about your family and how you're coping right now.
So On the family side, we don't go out unless it's really necessary. I think the only time we've gone outside of the house for pure pleasure purpose was to take my daughter to the hairdressers because that was her wish and gift for her birthday. Other than that, really, we stay at home.
Happy birthday to her.
Thank you.
All right,
And,
thank you. Yes, yes, go ahead, go ahead.
and also, school has started again. So my youngest and my second son have gone back to school. My daughter is happy to be back to school, but not exactly to be because with all of her friends yet. But that will come. So she's quite positive.
So how does school work? Do they have less people in class, less children in class?
Yes. So their classes are divided into two. So there are morning groups and afternoon groups.
Okay.
And so, less people in class, so the teachers don't have to interact with as many students at the same time, as well as with parents. So parents are not allowed to enter the premises of the schools. There are people guarding the entrances and exits of schools so that there isn't a big crowd of parents and children in one place.
Mm-hmm. What about work? Is it still work from home?
So the instruction, the guidance from the authorities is to continue to work from home as much as possible. So that's what big multinationals are doing. International organizations, even the WHO and the UN, our employees still continue to work from home.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you for your updates over there in Switzerland, Christine, and we'll be expecting more. Thank you, and stay safe, stay healthy.
Thank you for having me. For Eagle News International from Geneva, Switzerland, I'm Christine Benedicto. We live in interesting times.
Coronavirus screening has surged in South Korea since authorities introduced anonymous testing, according to officials, as they scramble to tackle a nightclub cluster amid concerns of anti-gay prejudice could impede the response. The country has been held up as a global model in how to curb the virus, but a spike of new cases driven by the cluster in venues in Seoul's Itaewon district, including several clubs, forced authorities to delay this week's planned reopening of schools. Take a look. Now, many nightclub customers are believed to be reluctant to come forward because of the stigma of being gay in the socially conservative country. Seoul authorities began carrying out tests anonymously this week to address such concerns, and Mayor Park Won-soon said that 8,300 people were tested in the city compared to around 1,000 per day last week. Authorities are using mobile phone data to trace nightclub visitors and will deploy police to track down those who cannot be reached. Officials in the East Asian nation of 52 million announced 26 new cases Wednesday, taking its total to 10,962 after recording only single-digit increases for 8 of the preceding 14 days, many of them overseas arrivals. Now, Seoul officials said that as of Wednesday morning, 119 cases nationwide had been linked to the cluster in Itaewon. South Korea's handling of the initial coronavirus outbreak was widely praised, and how it deals with this latest spike will be closely watched as parts of Europe begin a cautious reopening. Health experts in Europe and the United States have warned that moving too quickly could result in a surge in infection numbers. Eagle News will be right back.
Mula noon hanggang ngayon, gabay natin ang MTRCB ratings sa matalino at responsableng panonood. Sa tamang pagsunod sa MTRCB ratings, ginagawa nating ligtas at makabuluhan ang panonood ng bawat miyembro ng pamilyang Pilipino. Lumipas man ang panahon, hanggang may pamilyang Pilipino, andyan ang MTRCB.
We are in uncharted territory.
Tayo on to 100%. Traffic ban. No sanctioning.
Welcome back. Malacanang said resuming the implementation of the national government's ambitious build infrastructure projects and easing the monetary policy would contribute to the faster recovery of the Philippine economy. In a virtual presser aired on state-run PDV4, presidential spokesperson Harry Roque expressed optimism about the country's economic recovery after the lifting of the community quarantine in some areas nationwide. Take a look.
So ang gobyerno naman po ay merong plano. Unang-una po, bubuksan natin muli yung Build program natin at ito po yung tinatawag na fiscal strategy, paggamit po ng national budget para po mag-create ng economic activities. No? At pangalawa po, yung ating mga monetary policies, sinisiguro po ng ating Bangko Sentral na sapat po ang salapi na umiikot, binababa po natin ang interest rates at saka yung mga liquidity requirements ng mga bangko po ay ini-ease up natin yung mga deposit requirement ng mas maraming pong pera na umikot sa ating ekonomiya. Inaasahan po natin yan, pero ang strategiya po ng ating NEDA at ng Department of Finance, magkakaroon tayo ng tinatawag na V-shape. Bababa po talaga ating ekonomiya, pero tayo po ay tataas naman at inaasahan natin na mabilis ang ating pag-recover matapos po itong mga quarantines.
The European Union set out plans for a phased restart of travel this summer, hoping to save millions of tourism jobs threatened by the coronavirus pandemic across Europe. Let's listen in.
Tourism is a vital part of Europe's economy. Nearly a tenth of GDP across Europe and more than 10% in 11 member states. Millions of jobs depend on tourism. Safety, that underlies our guidance. And that means taking gradual, careful steps to help travel restart in line with what science tells us. Different countries, of course, are in different situations, but we need to treat Europeans equally. And we all share that responsibility, governments and businesses, workers and travellers. Of course, this is not going to be a normal summer, not for any of us. But when we all work together and we all do our part in the ways the Commission is setting out today, then we don't have to face a summer struck at home or a completely lost summer for the European tourist industry.
Germany said it wants to end by the middle of next month checks at land borders introduced to fight the coronavirus as infection rates slow. Interior Minister Horst Seehofer told reporters the EU's top economy had set the clear goal of free travel in Europe by mid-June and would begin easing some border checks this week. Restrictions on crossing the border imposed 2 months ago would be ended with Luxembourg and eased with Austria, Switzerland, and France from Friday, enabling business trips and family visits to take place. The border controls with those neighbors would then end on June 15, assuming the virus outbreak is still seen to be under control. The total opening of borders depends on our continuing to do our all to fight the infection, Mr. Seehofer said, warning against complacency in light of the encouraging data in Germany. Seehofer said the agreements on loosening the measures had been reached in bilateral talks with neighbors this week. And he also said that travel from non-EU countries such as the United States and Russia would remain restricted until at least June 15. Germany still has a warning in force until mid-June against taking foreign holidays despite the easing of regulations among European partners. With the tourism sector reeling, the European Commission on Wednesday urged EU countries to gradually reopen, shut internal borders or close internal borders, and to treat each member state according to the same criteria. And this would mean that countries with comparable health situations would use the same standards on border openings. Eagle News will be right back.
Mag-ingat upang hindi kayo madaya. Dahil alam naman natin, hindi lahat ng balita ay tama. Maging matalino, huwag magpapaloko. Mag-ingat sa pagpo-post, pagla-like, pag-share ng kung ano-ano. Dahil baka mamaya, hindi mo na namamalayan, isa ka na pala sa mga tao nagkakalat ng maling kwento.
Ein sonniger Tag heute hier in Berlin vor dem Bundestag. Ich bin Irene Juliet Arzadon und möchte diese Gelegenheit nutzen, um ein paar Worte mit euch zu teilen. An alle Menschen da draußen. In dieser Zeit lasst uns nicht vergessen, den Menschen zu danken, die ihr Leben für uns opfern. Sei es die Menschen, die im Krankenhaus arbeiten, in den Altenheimen sowie in den Arztpraxen, aber auch an die Menschen, die im Lebensmittelhandel sich befinden. Die Kassierer. Manchmal reicht es aus, um ihnen ein freundliches Lächeln zu geben. Denn die Menschen, die heute am Arbeiten sind, weil sie nicht so wie einige von uns zu Hause bleiben können, die sollten wir wertschätzen. Ihnen sollten wir unseren Dank ausrichten. Darum lasst uns noch mehr zusammenhalten. Sie wertschätzen.
28-year-old sumo wrestler died in Japan on Wednesday after contracting coronavirus and suffering multiple organ failure, becoming the ancient sport's first COVID-19 fatality, according to the National Association. Take a look. Shobushi, a lower-ranking wrestler belonging to the Takadagawa stable in Tokyo, died early Wednesday after battling the disease for more than a month. He developed a fever over April 4 to 5, but had trouble contacting the local public health office because phone lines were constantly busy, the Sumo Association said in a statement. He was then turned away by several hospitals before finally being admitted to a Tokyo hospital on the evening of April 8 after he started coughing up blood. An initial coronavirus test there came back negative, but he then tested positive on April 10 after being transferred to another hospital where he was placed in intensive care on April 19. Sumo Association Chief Hakaku, who uses a single name, said the news was devastating. A handful of low-ranking wrestlers and trainees, as well as a sumo table master, have tested positive for the virus in Japan. The outbreak has also forced the association to cancel its upcoming tournament, which had been scheduled for this month. A basho has only been canceled the other time in over half a century in 2011 over a bout-fixing scandal. The spring basho held in March in Osaka took place without spectators, with wrestlers surrounded by just a handful of judges in the empty arena. But it was broadcast live on national TV where viewers could hear sounds normally drowned out by the crowd, including wrestlers slapping their bellies and scraping their feet on the clay ring. In other news, they are among the many heroes of the pandemic, working flat out to stave off the worst effects of the coronavirus. In this video report, we meet paramedic Yvonne Estrada, 61 years old, who says, "This is something I have never seen, never." Take a look.
We're gonna go get him at 6th Street downtown in front of the police station, 238 East 6th Street. It's like Los Angeles or Main Street. Yeah, Because I don't want him on the gurney if I don't have to.
So Richard is the contact there. Okay.
Never seen anything like this. They do some emergency like biohazard drills, like practice tests, and where they wash you off and stuff, but that's as close as I have ever seen. This is something I have never seen. Never. 25 years, never. This is, it gives you, chills. So, I don't know. So this is my vegetable garden. This used to be 2 raised beds, but now it is a U-shaped wonder. A person chooses that profession because they have some desire somewhere in them to help other people. There's glory, there's badges, there's red trucks, there's red lights, but not everyone can do it. Even if they think they can do it, the minute they see something, blood or damaged, people, broken bones, they just quit. There's string beans, red beets, gold beets, fava beans, some dill.
They are among the heroes of the coronavirus pandemic. Hong Yeon-hee, a 32-year-old nurse in Daegu, South Korea, has spent months away from her 4-year-old daughter while treating patients inside the country's coronavirus epicenter. Take a look.
신발을 알아보셨대요.
저희는 이제 A조라 가지고 지금 들어가면 이제 1시 반 되면 교대에서 나오니까 그때 먼저 씻고 퇴근은 이제 3시 딱 돼야지 갈 수 있고 이제 일 마치고 오면 바로 손 씻어야 돼가지고 바로 손 한번 씻고 또 쉬고 현관 앞에서 그냥 이제 저희가 장 봐서 지우 딸 우유 같은 거 이제 사고 넣어줄 때 그때 현관 앞에서만 보지 뭐 이제 꽉 껴거나 그런 적은 없어요. 안 오고 그때 확진자가 매일매일 늘면서 이제 언제 끝날지도 모르고 하는데 딸은 항상 보고 싶은데 이제 사진을 그냥 잠도 안 오고 하니까 보니까 이제 동영상이랑 보다가 보니까 그냥 막연하게 아무 생각이 없었는데 눈물이 나더라고요. 그냥도 눈물이 났었던 것 같아요. 일이고요. 영웅이라고 저희 스스로 느끼기보다는 저희는 당연히 하고 있는 일을 하고 있을 뿐이라고 그렇게 항상 생각을 하고 있어요.
International Nurses Day is an international day observed around the world on May 12 of each year to mark the contributions that nurses make to society. Take a look.
Today is International Nurses Day, a time to celebrate nurses who are the backbone of every health system, whether it's performing essential services or responding to a crisis. We celebrate them today, but we depend on them every day. Nurses are on the front lines of the COVID-19 response, from community clinics to intensive care units in hospitals. Today, we must take time to honor the nurses and all health workers who have lost their lives during the COVID-19 pandemic. Earlier this year, we launched WHO's first State of the World's Nursing Report. The report shows the world is facing a global shortage of 6 million nurses to achieve and sustain universal health coverage, especially in low and middle income countries. We need to support these countries to expand nursing education and create nursing jobs. And all countries of all income levels must ensure occupational safety and health for their nurses. Beyond PPE and physical safety, nurses and all healthcare workers deserve timely pay, sick leave, health insurance, and mental health support. Nurses must be properly valued and represented in health leadership roles, where they can work to guide health policy and investment. To all nurses everywhere, thank you.
And before we let you go, we are urging our viewers and listeners around the world to help raise COVID-19 relief from PPEs to relief goods. The primary beneficiary of the proceeds will go to the FYM Medical Foundation that also supports the New Era General Hospital, which maintains a bio-containment facility also intended for COVID-19 patients. And there are many ways to donate and be able to help health workers and frontliners through the FYM Medical Foundation. As our beneficiary, first donate via pymy.co/EBC. Just use any Visa, MasterCard, or JCB credit, debit, or prepaid card and donate by logging on to pymy.co/EBC. Just choose an amount you wish to donate and enter your card details. If you have a PayMaya account, you can also donate by scanning the QR code you see on the screen. Just log on to your app, click the scan button, point your camera to the QR code that you see on the screen, and enter the amount you wish to donate. For PayPal app users, just log on to eaglenews.ph and click the PayPal Donate Now found at the upper portion of the website. Input the amount you wish to donate. Click Use this donation for Enjoy Music Beyond the Crisis and choose between donate with PayPal or donate with a credit card for other details. Donate directly to the EBC bank account that is flashed to your screen. You can transact online or directly with your banks. Wherever you are in the world, you can easily help those affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, even while at home, through our beneficiary, FYM Medical Foundation. And before we close, we leave you with a word of hope. At the end of the day, there remains so much more to be grateful for. See you again tomorrow evening. Good night. I'm Alma Angeles. We live in interesting times.